Have you ever wondered what retirement is really like? Over the years, I've wondered that often as I watched individuals a little bit older than me reach retirement age, and I thought, man, they have it made. But did they really? Yeah, I'm Marv from Marv's Fixit shop. I've been dragging junk home and trying to fix it for over 5 decades. And before retirement, it was just kind of a fun thing that I did. But here in retirement, it has taken on a whole different meaning, and that's what I want to share with you today. Retirement isn't all about just leisure. It's a new chapter in your life that has ups and downs just like anything else. I'd like to share a few tidbits about what I've learned in regards to retirement since I've retired. And then also I want to share with you a couple of pointers when it comes to tool repair and restoration. It's what I've learned in my shop. One of the positive things that I've discovered with retirement is the idea of I control my own time. You can get up in the morning, and if you feel like it, you can go do something. If you don't feel like it, you can just stay there and drink coffee and watch the news or whatever you like to do. But one of the positive things about retirement is your time is yours. But is it really? The negative thing I also learned about retirement. There's so many people out there that are going to want to try to control your time. They figure, well, you're retired, you got time to do this, you have time to do that, when in reality that in retirement I found out that I'm busier now than I ever was. I try to maintain some kind of a schedule here in this shop, and inevitably someone comes in and wants to sit down and talk, and most people that come in here to talk with me are family or friends and some elderly people. And of course, old Marv here wants to take time out of his day to help them realize that they're important in my life. My time isn't worth so much to me that I can't take time for someone else if they want to sit and talk a little bit. I just had a man leave here. He's 86 years old. He stops in now and then, and he sees this computer stuff, and he's got all kinds of questions. Today, his question to me was, what does IQ mean? And I never really thought about that. IQ, intelligent quotient, I guess, if I'm saying that correctly. It's a way of measuring a person's intelligence. And I tried to explain that to him, and he says, oh, so it just means how smart you might be or how dumb you might be, in so many words. And I said, well, I guess. He says, I gain my IQ by my age. I'm 86, so I figured I got 86 years of intelligence. And if you stop and think about it, he's probably onto something there in a certain respect. We was looking at some of this tech, and he said, I just don't understand it. And I said, well, Evan, from when you were 16 to now, the world has changed a lot, hasn't it? And even for me at 71, it has changed so much. You know, I could tell you stories upon stories as when I was a kid, but spoiler alert, if you hear someone my age tell you they had to walk 5 miles to school in snow drifts up to their hind ends, don't believe them, because that's not true. We had school buses back when I was a kid, and we had a lot of snow, but our parents didn't make us go walk 5 miles to school. But one thing we did have was the best cars and the best music. That's just my opinion. So there's the pros and cons of, at least one pro and one con of retirement. You got all the time in the world, but people will try to control that time for you. So, lesson I've learned is to try to find a balance in time. Spend the time you need to take care of your family and grandkids, because there's probably nothing more important in this life than that when it comes to personal. And don't allow others to control your time to their benefit when it's taking away from you. And like I said, I found that to be true in this shop. I've opened my doors to just about anyone that wants to come in, and they like coming here, hanging out, and just chatting with old Marv for a few minutes, and I let them do it. But that does take away from my projects, and it puts me behind, especially right now with my wife recovering from a knee replacement surgery. It's been pretty tough on her. What else I want to talk today in my shop? I call this Shop Talk. So let me share with you a couple of tips that I hope you find useful. The first tip I want to share, and I mentioned this or at least touched on it in my last Shop Talk video, and that is organization. I have lost so much productivity in my shop just looking for things that I've laid down and not paid much attention to where I laid it. Oh, let's say if someone comes in, I'll lay a tool down here, or I'll walk over there and lay something down. I forget where I put it, and I hunt, and finally I find it. But I've spent a lot of time in doing so. So organizing your tools in a way that makes sense to you, organizing whatever you're taking apart, laying it out piece by piece and in the order that you've disassembled it, so that when reassembling comes along, you don't have to think so long on it. That last project I did on an airless sprayer, the video will be out soon. Yeah, I laid parts out and I thought I'd remember. I didn't remember. Our memories have a tendency of slipping away quicker the older you get. Maybe some of you aren't like that, but I sure am. So organizing your tools and laying out your project so you can see it, and even taking pictures with these newfangled cell phones. You can take pictures of about anything. And parts, have a system put in place to find what you might need to repair something, and then go from there. But that's one of the tips I want to share with you today, is just organization. Well, the second tip I'm going to label just as being creative. Let me give you an example. When I was a young boy, I went back to the woods. A friend and I went back to called the woods. We had a little woods in behind a farm. We'd go back there, and back in the day, people would take their trash, tin cans, what have you, and dump it in the edge of the woods, and that was where they created a small landfill. We had one of those trash heaps in the edge of our little woods, and I'd go back there and dig and rummage through that, and I'd find all kinds of treasures. It was just a fun thing to do. But one time I was back there and I saw an old sign, an old porcelain sign, and I looked at that sign and I scratched my head, and you know what I saw? If you guessed a go-kart, you're right. I saw that sign and I thought, I'm going to turn that sign into a go-kart. Fact is, I shared in detail this story in one of my earliest videos. If I think about it, I'll put a link to that maybe in the cards of the video. But I dragged that sign home, and it was heavy. It was an old steel porcelain sign, and I drug it into my dad's shop. He was a contractor, and he had a shop, and he had an old Lincoln 225 welder there that I used for cutting and welding. Self-taught in that, and he had a bunch of old galvanized pipe, and sure enough, I cut that pipe up and I started welding, and before long I had a go-kart. put tires on it, found an old West Bend, discarded West Bend 2-cycle engine. I got that running, and man, that was a ball. We had fun back in those days, just being creative, making our own what entertainment, a lot different today, but that was one of my creative ideas. And over the years I've had different ideas. Some of them have been pretty lame, some of them weren't bad. I can't even think of them right now, but if I could, I'd share a couple. But that sign turned into a go-kart, and I often wondered what happened to that old go-kart. But my friend and I had a lot of fun going up and down the highway with that thing. Yeah, we used to do that back then. I don't recommend it today. But that's what my shop tips for you today. Organization, and be creative in your repairs and in recreating something out of junk if you have it. And as an extra bonus today, I want to show you something. The 86-year-old that was just in here that I told you about dropped something off. He said, "Marv, it quit working." I said, "Let me take a look at that." And I want to share that with you. What I have here is just an old Campbell small air compressor. It's probably considered a throwaway. But when you plug it in, there's no power to it, and I told him, "Evan, let me tear that apart and see if I can't get it working for you, and then I'll give it back to you, and you can have a little air compressor again." Can I fix this? Who knows, but we'll try, and that's an upcoming project. Maybe in the next week or two, I'll tear this apart, and we'll get a video out on it. Well, I hope you enjoyed Shop Talk for today. If you have any comments or any questions you want to ask me, drop them in the comments below. If you like videos like I bring each week, please subscribe to my channel and share my channel. It's the best way you can support me and help me. If you like videos like this and others where I do repair work, please watch one of these up here. Can it be fixed? Sure it can. Can you fix it? You're darn right you can fix it. Until the next one.